when you're growing your business, right? A natural excitement is to get as many customers as possible. Try to get almost a sense of high when you land a new customer. But then at some point, we have to also realize the few that you had all along, the customers who took the leap of faith, they deserve attention and they deserve complete submission into creating value for them, and they will actually end up making you successful.
Failure may be inevitable, but there are scientific values behind it. We've got to learn how to fail faster so we can learn smarter. Join me and let's uncover the hack behind failures. In these episodes, we'll get inside the minds of the successful, discuss the failures they've had in the past, and analyze what made them tick, so we all learn from it. Welcome to Set to Fail podcast. I'm your host, Joseph Indolos.
Hey everybody, this is Joseph. You're listening to Set to Fail podcast, where we analyze all sorts of failures, pain points, trying to turn adversity into potential business opportunities. So we help enable aspiring entrepreneurs, professionals, embrace failing forward and execute smarter. It's a great pleasure. It's a great day for me. It's an honor as well to introduce our guest today, Sanjog Aul. So Sanjog is the founder and the show host for CIO Talk Networks. At the same time, Sanjog has led, pointed exchanges between C-level executives, engaging them with wide array of topics to IT trends, as well as, artificial intelligence, data, security, whatever have you. So welcome, Sanjog, to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Very excited. And I know this is going to be like insights and feature packed. So, but really trying to pedal back a little bit. I just wanted to start maybe if you can help unpack more about, the overview of the goal or the mission of CTN, your background as well, some of the, the things that you're doing with the company, the strategic direction of your organization, and how you help, businesses by cooperating with them and things like that.
Sure. So CTN, which is CIO Talk Network, it's a thought leadership media company. And the mission from the very beginning has been, and all along will be, is to get the topmost practitioners from around the world who may come, for the most part, from technology, but many business counterparts as well. And they would share their viewpoints on different subjects, maybe starting from leadership to technology to culture to organizational design, and a lot of different subjects, which essentially could come in two areas. One is the problems that we are facing today or likely to face tomorrow, or the opportunities we want to capitalize today and tomorrow. And these people are not just saying things. These are coming out of whatever they share is coming out of their experiences. So you get a practitioner's view. And that is the focus we have kept all along, and which goes a long way in other people who are listening to get value out of these inputs they provide. It allows them to validate ideas, get some new ideas, or prevent expensive mistakes. So that's a value centricity we have in CTN. So that is the kind of guests we get on our show. But CTN is more than just a show. So we would do podcasts, we would do videos. We are just about to start, but then we do webinars. We also have CXOs blogging with us. We also do in-person events. So anything we could do to bring such leaders together and have them discuss, and have the people who are in the audience or who are participating benefit from it. Now, that said, that is the front end for the audience facing. And of course, to support as a business, we have a B2B thought leadership marketing services organization, or rather an agency, an advisory firm, which allows organizations which offer technology solutions and services or technology-enabled solution and services to put themselves out there as thought leaders, elevating the persona, explaining how they create value, and generate prospects and interest among the buying segment.
Oh, interesting. And like it's more of like stirring the pot, and then afterwards you'll have insights, information. I remember I listened to one of your recent sessions talking about zero trust, right? So you have a panel of folks which really talks about not just the technology, but it's really the adaptation, the behavior of how like organizations not just implement the IT, but it's really about trying to create awareness within the organization. So based on this, I do understand there's a lot of a lot of challenges trying to build the company, build your organization from the ground up, as well as being acquainted to a lot of people. So based on my research, I learned there was a point in time you experienced a downturn in your business. So, and you actually thought it was just a bump in the road and kept taking more, pushing forward. But apparently, the bump turned out to be a boulder that stalled your business. So, as someone that's starting, maybe their own business, it resonates to me personally how painful that situation is. So maybe for the benefit of our listeners, if you can share what were some of your obstacles, the failures that you encountered, and then what are the key takeaways on trying to overcome and still, in the end, remain successful towards battling this adversity.
So, first of all, I would like to say that if you're an entrepreneur or you're, building business or even growing business, you can never feel that life is going to be a smooth sailing boat. As a businessman, there will be uncertainties, there will be problems. So number one, let fear not come in the way, because fear is nothing else but you not accepting that there will be problems or uncertainty. And if it becomes you have that mindset, then it results in you just knowing, okay, this has come and I need to just deal with it. Now, coming to the very problem itself. So when you're growing your business, right, a natural excitement is to get as many customers as possible. Try to get almost a sense of high when you land a new customer. But then at some point, we have to also realize the few that you had all along, the customers who took the leap of faith, they deserve attention and they deserve complete submission into creating value for them, and they will actually end up making you successful. If you keep looking at adding more customers and you stretch too thin, you would always be having a revolving door.
Mm-hmm.
So, number one, whosoever comes to you has actually taken the leap of faith and given you an opportunity. And at no point do you want to dilute your focus on them just because you have this dream of making $1 billion company. It can become $1 billion company, but any company that you will look at which has reached a certain level, they have always had a sustained set of customers who gave them the foundation. And yes, growth should happen, but not every time. Let that growth in terms of number of customers should be resulting in you losing existing customers. So then it becomes a leaky bucket, if you will. So that's one. Then the other thing is, you should be optimistic, but perhaps in business, foolishly optimistic approach is not a very savvy advice I would like to give anyone. So suppose what happened with us is we were growing leaps and bounds, and of course you're hiring people, etc. And when we saw a downturn, that downturn was a result of some macro trends and some things we were supposed to do differently, but we were not. But then since I was seeing dollars coming in, the taking a step back or taking a pause and looking at why is this happening versus being cocky and overconfident and saying, okay, no worries, this will pass away. And then actually making sure that we don't try to spend more quickly than the dollars are coming, and always have that buffer, a bigger buffer. And even worse, you need sometimes some credit to run your business, to run your cash flow, but you are only supposed to use that credit for the cash flow, and don't try to use that credit as a bank or as if it was your own money. No, it is a borrowed money and you're paying interest on it. So if you start seeing that credit being utilized or overutilized just to survive, that's a dangerous path to go into. And that's what I ended up doing, and which is why I had a huge loan I was left with, because I didn't stop taking credit, and bank wouldn't have a problem, right, in extending it, because they know eventually I will have to repay one way or the other. We might have to keep our house or our office or other assets as collateral. So they were covering their risk, but I wasn't. So that is the other thing which you may want to do, is try to make sure that you got enough buffer. Always keep watching cash flow. And over time, see what approach to business will create enough profitability out of which you can keep a certain stash aside, that your dependency of running your business or getting through the rainy days is not dependent on an outside party which is going to charge you arm and a leg as an interest rate. So you have to cut your costs if you need to. You have to stop a few things to make sure keep the most profitable or the most viable things running, and let that phase pass. And then you can get back into, going full blown. So never get crazy.
That. I love that. Yeah. Like, being frugal, and also, and to our listeners, the reason we're really, talking about these points is not to dwell about, the past failures and, some of the struggles, but it's really trying to understand, hopefully reverse engineer, the insights coming from, the obstacles, and trying to anticipate what could go wrong, and maybe avoid that going forward. So for you, Sanjog, how did you restarted the business? Did you pivot to like a new line model, or did you stay on the same path? How did that work for you?
So fewer things are done better. I'm a believer of that. So when I had to restart, on one hand, we had to let go of our employees. I had to hire a few very essential consultants, almost like a virtual assistant, to make sure that I had the support of people where whatever time I spend, again, like I'm talking about being frugal with your funds. You also have to be frugal with your time on where you spend it. I almost assign myself an hourly rate and say, if I work on this particular thing at this time, is that comparable to the hourly rate? And the way I'm saying hourly rate is not just to show that how cool and an expensive consultant I can be. It's more about how much more value I can spend, I can create with the time I spend on a certain thing for the business. And then I would surround myself with the very essential individuals who bring the skills, but they can do the job which, if I did not do, I could spend time focusing on things which require the most attention by a person who is most experienced, which would be including me and others. So we tried to work on making sure people are only doing what they are supposed to do and what they are best at and where they can create the most value. And that means some people will do a certain part of work, other people will do others, including me. So that's like we reduced the team and became hyper focused on that. Then secondly, from the services offerings, right? I could offer any and everything under the sun. And we kept throwing things at people saying, okay, see if it sticks. So we were spending time in having meetings with them to pitch a new idea. But what I learned was the main thing is what you have to remember and let that remain the main thing. What I mean is what you know are the fundamentals of a business which brought us this far. And if they are still the strong fundamentals of the industry, and while you might be tempted to work on adding new services, new way of doing things, etc., but you can't lose focus on remove or reduce your focus from what was the main thing in the first place. I don't want to say fall in love with it, even though it stopped working, but if it still works, and that's what was the foundation of your business, don't look for coolness. Look for always having a stable foundation and then innovate, but don't let that innovation streak stray you from the solid foundation that got you to where you are. So that's what we started doing, is we pulled back, removed any and everything which was either a nice to have or something which was far out there, not yet proven. And we even rationalize what we will even reintroduce. Even if you go and we did not stop innovating, but we brought our focus back first on the base fundamentals and said how much this particular area in which we were working with and which got us to where we are, how much can we leverage that as a strength and grow that particular area, while of course do very essential level of innovation to think outside of the box.
That's beautiful. It's like the lean startup methodology, build, measure, learn, and then trying to focus on your strengths. And I remember the quote of Jack Ma, where he talks about your focus on a certain area of expertise and trying to drill down on that. So I think that's really profound for not just for our listeners, but for myself as well. So thank you for that. And we all know in business and life in general, there are no shortcuts. So as a founder and a business leader who interacted with over 800 top IT executives from global enterprises, what are some of the common patterns you saw, or let's say best practices you learned by talking to these folks? And then maybe the younger generations, the aspiring entrepreneurs can emulate those best practices and then build their businesses going forward.
Well, the first is instead of trying to come across or even start thinking that you know it all, always stay a student, which means you are willing to always learn it all, because things will shift for you. Whenever you start thinking you're an expert, you actually will stop learning. And what you do today and what you do tomorrow, they are kind of interconnected. So what you do today, if you don't learn from it, your tomorrow will be less than what you would like it to be. That's one, which is always stay a student. The second thing is, if you're going to build it, any organization, it is all about the people who you bring along. And yes, it's totally okay for you to be a solo consultant and go out there. And yes, you will be customer focused. That's one thing. But most of the time when you're trying to build your business over time, you're going to try to invite people into your organization who can help you do some things, like we also did and many others too. But if you think you know it all and let them just be the doers, you're doing yourself the biggest disservice. Why? Because if those people come, they are looking at things from a different perspective versus you as an entrepreneur who fallen in love with what you do. And sometimes you'll have blind spots, more blind spots than them, because they're coming in, they're looking at it, they're looking at it from the trenches. So then you got to, first of all, listen to them and get their perspective. Second thing is, if you get them to always do it your way, or you think your way is the right way, it is going to, again, leave a lot of money and opportunity on the table, because those guys being in the trenches and people coming from different background might have many more ideas. And secondly, if you let them do their thing, they will actually give it their heart and soul much more than if you ask them, hey, do it my way. So you have to lead people. But leading doesn't mean managing. Leading doesn't mean controlling. Leading means allowing them to be the best they can in whatever they're doing. And the only way you can do it by not looking over their shoulder, not trying to always have them think and do your way. So you got to be a leader first. And self-leadership is also important. But when you're trying to build a business, leading others is important. And even beyond that, let those people grow, because if those people will grow, number one, they will stay. Number two, they'll be motivated. Number three, they will develop more leaders. It's almost like paying it forward. And imagine you got a bunch of people who are all leaders in their own right. They don't need to be at the top. You can lead from the middle or the bottom.
Right.
So you remain a student, always strive to be a leader. And then you got to make sure that you start looking at everyone around you in an empathetic manner. So empathy is an attribute of a leader. That's one. But even that extends to not only just your people, but even your customer. If that customer comes and he said something and you did what they asked you to do, that's a transaction, right?
Right.
But at all times, that experience will include some times when they're not saying what is in their best interest. Or sometimes they may say things which you did not like. But if you just looked at their behavior, then you might end up reacting or responding incorrectly. But if you looked at the why or thought about the why first, and you understood what they truly need, and you served them, then you will simply build a better relationship. And frankly, business, to be very frank, is given a lot more. This term of saying, I want to do a business and I want to be an entrepreneur, we're trying to make it very complex. It is actually as simple as you thinking about business as someone who needs to solve a problem. That person or that entity doesn't have the wherewithal to do it. They're inviting you to come and share what you can potentially do to solve their problem, and do so where you truly try to understand it. You actually do it with care as if it was your own problem. And third, you're bringing the right kind of skill set which will do justice to solving that problem most effectively. And as a result of that, that other person, the value that you create is by your gifts and your contribution, you solved that problem for that individual. As a result, the person will continue to go about feeling good about it. They start liking you, and then they may have other opportunities or other problems. Whenever they come back to you again, you exactly do the same thing. So there is nothing what I call as business. It is like a bunch of people trying to help identify opportunities and trying to make most of it, or trying to solve problems. And you come with your gifts, the right intent and care and empathy, and try to help them solve their problem. So when you make them successful, your success is automatic.
That's gold. That's gold. I love that. Especially, a lot of, and I'm guilty with that. Sometimes I'm trying to force things, right? So trying to naturally, be a problem solver would eventually help you, reach your goals in terms of financials and all, right? So, and we talked about, some of the problems, the business case studies. I'm assuming you've had a lot, working with a lot of these customers that you have. Were there some very challenging ones, that you're able to flip around, make it a successful customer case study throughout the years?
So when you say success, right? So let us create a metric for success. They wanted X, you gave them X plus Y. They enjoyed the journey, and they and your own people became better as a result of solving that problem. How, if you were to deconstruct the case study, right? That's why I'm assuming your question is so that we can find a way by which we can learn from it. But it's important for us to look at it that a case study is nothing else but a journey through which we try to solve a problem for someone or help them achieve what they want. And in that process, not only did they get better at learning and understanding, we also got better. And that's my way of looking at a case study. So I've had situations where a customer who came up front, and that customer was anxious more than anything else, and they were treating us as if they knew it all, and anything we would say, they were just looking at us at a very skeptical way because they were under a lot of pressure. Now, and then I'll take a specific instance without taking names. So it was, I was invited to help with a bunch of events that they wanted to do, like a road show. And for you to make it successful, you have to design the experience that will happen there so that the people in the room who are the actual leaders who are coming, they have the best experience, they have the best engagement and best learning, which is what would be a good measure of success. But this organization and the people I was dealing with, they were thinking inside out, which means they were thinking, oh, if we go in there and at that event, we should shine. We should look like awesome. So that they were self-centering in their thinking at that time. Now, when this conversation started, and when I started explaining to them, it was very hard for them to swallow, and they were giving reasons why we shouldn't do it. So by showing them some examples or that why it is, so perhaps we were able to get through it. But frankly, it was verbally only that they said they understood. But when we were actually planning for the event and what would be said by whom, they were reverting to their original thinking, because that means they had never accepted what I had suggested. And they did not actually call me names, but they said, do you really know what you're doing? Even though after hiring, they were distrusting. So with that said, the best way was to actually understand, and that's where we had to take an empathetic view, that why is this even happening? And we started peeling the onions. And so we realized that there have been other events done by other people which did not deliver results. And this individual who was leading this effort was under tremendous pressure because they had to kind of prove themselves. So we said that what I've showed you logically, that if we do this, is this going to help create the right engagement? And do you think by creating the right engagement and by getting your people to talk in a certain way, would it help you? So they said yes. Great. So it says, so where is the issue? So they said, I don't know if this is even possible because we have never seen that happen. I said, would you be willing to let the first event show you what's possible? They said, if you can make this happen, that would be a miracle for me. And since we knew this, that it works, I said, okay, wait for the miracle. And when we went in the room, we started having the discussion. And before you know it, everybody, literally everybody in the room was talking, engaging, having laughs, yet having very good, insightful conversations. And,
Nice.
and they stopped and shook hands and said, Sanjog, that was awesome, etc., etc. So that was proof in the pudding, right?
Right.
And then
that's
they were
different.
recording it.
Sorry.
Yeah, it was different. They never thought this is even possible. They only thought the way to do an event is let us go and tell how great we are and do death by PowerPoint.
Yeah. Like I love the fact that you said that, a lot of, even the marketers and, some of the folks, we always try to think about our own reputation, our brand, and how we appeal to others, right? So, but the very important, I think, keyword you mentioned earlier is the customer experience, because it takes two to tango. So to make things successful, the journey or the customers should be really happy with what they're getting and experiencing at the same time. So I love that. And I think that would help a lot of our listeners, especially whenever, let's say, they're creating a product or creating a SaaS product. They should take into account the experience of people when using your specific technology or using your service or whatever. So I think that's really gold. And other things that you can advise to someone that's just starting a business, are there some things that you would if you have the chance to look back, Sanjog, what would you tell yourself, let's say your younger self?
So anytime when you're starting a business, before you do anything, just sit down, not in front of a computer, take a pen and pad, and write down, I am starting this business to solve ABC problem for PQR prospects or customers, so they can get better at offering XYZ benefits to the customer. And you could also perhaps put a how in it. So you say, I am going to solve ABC problem for PQR customers in LMN ways so they can achieve FGH. You see what I'm saying? I'm trying to pick up the letters from A to Z to make a point.
Yeah.
So essentially, if you could write this, nothing more, and then see if you can explain this in the 30 seconds in an elevator to someone, not just because you want to condense it. It is the clarity that what problem which you are trying to, for which set of customers, how, and what is going to be the benefit. This will rattle you, but it is the right kind of rattling, because that's the best investment you can make in terms of times. Because a lot of times people start because something is shiny. They go after the wrong prospect because they think the whole world is waiting for them to, for you to call them. And you sometimes may not know their problem specifically, which you're going to solve, or you do not know if the alignment is there between the problem they might have or the opportunity they want to capitalize to the solution you're offering. And then if you did solve it, what is the benefit they will get? Because people don't buy anything else but the benefits they're going to get. That's why they're investing, right?
Mm-hmm.
If this is not clear, And you cannot stare at it and say, yes, this is what it is supposed to be. I'm not going to look left. I'm not going to look right. Remember, I spoke about focus. This will get your product focus, your service focus, your customer base focus, the value proposition focused. What else is there to a business?
Awesome. Yes, and these things sometimes we see it as small things, but it's really the pivotal insight that could change a lot, and align your your plans in setting up a successful business. So that's awesome.
And see, one thing which I will tell you about what I just said, you should be willing to do this with all ideas. And if some places where the same thing, when you do after all the thinking, it doesn't look like you're getting anywhere, perhaps there is a problem with that idea itself. So be willing to drop that idea. Don't fall in love with your idea.
Yeah. Sometimes, we need to just accept that, some ideas are not sound compared to others, or sometimes we need to step back to a much lighter version of that idea, if you will. So, you can be able to cast a wider net of people that would be interested to what you're doing. So that's awesome. I believe there's a lot of value that you can bring to aspiring entrepreneurs like me, especially in helping them identify areas of growth potential, business opportunities for people, for processes and technology. So Sanjog, for our listeners, where can they find you? Your website, your LinkedIn, or your email, so they can easily reach out to you for products and services.
So again, CIO Talk Network is the media outlet. If anybody's interested, they can connect with me on LinkedIn. We are a team, right? So I don't do sales and marketing. I am who I am in terms of the role that I play. That's the CTN. If somebody is looking for advice or guidance, they can always connect with me on LinkedIn. I'll be more than happy to share my insights, or if nothing else, give my 2 cents into what they could do new or more, at least leave them thinking. Yeah, so I guess connecting with me on LinkedIn is good. My website, the team is redesigning, if you will, so that it accurately reflects where I am and in my journey, and how I can best create value. So people could best benefit from talking to me about B2B thought leadership. It could be about this technology management and leadership. It could be about the entrepreneurship business, all the things that I've lived, right? And also, as I've spoken recently on my posts on LinkedIn around living a good, balanced, happy, or rather good integration between work and life, and have a good family, because business is a part of your which is the role you play, but let your I not get trashed in the process. So talk about personal development and happiness. I love to talk about that. And we are actually launching a platform based on the book I wrote, Tricycle Way. It's a membership-based platform where we want to help people look within for happiness. And it will actually have a very important focus for entrepreneurs, since your audience seems to be entrepreneurs, because we want them to not forget that they're humans first and this life is a gift. So just because they're working on a business, they should not rob themselves of the pleasures of beautiful things life has given us.
That's very beautiful. And thank you so much, Sanjog. I do understand that your podcasts are also available, Spotify, Apple Podcast, Google Podcasts, and all the leading
platforms. Right. So CIO Talk Network podcast, I think that is what people will be able to find. And I love for people to subscribe and listen and give us feedback and tell us how we can do better.
Great. Thank you so much, Sanjog. You're a blessing to the world. keep doing what you're doing, and keep inspiring people. So, and to our listeners, we'll also include some of the links to the description so you can easily check out and inquire to CIO Talk Networks. That's it for now. Thank you so much for taking the time, Sanjog, and also to our listeners, we look forward in the next episode. Stay tuned. Have a great day.
And there you have it. We hope you enjoyed and learned a lot in this episode. And if you did, please subscribe to YouTube, hit the notification bell, leave us a comment, also reviews on Spotify and Apple Podcast. This would really help the show to continue creating more and more insightful content for us to learn together. Thank you very much. Have a great day.